The Knicks are struggling. They lost to Orlando twice at home. I'm going to be on the Six-Man Show this Sunday, and I'm going to talk about those games. Actually, it's funny. They replied to my Instagram story of Q&As on Instagram, and they were like, when should they rename MSG to Magic Square Garden? Because they beat us twice already. We lost to Orlando twice at home, Toronto, and the Bucks, and we had leads in those games. We're 3-5 at home and 5-2 on the road. We're 17th in points per game allowed, so our defense has gotten better. We have the 13th best net rating, but that's because of our bench. Our bench has drastically been better than our starting lineup. Kemba, RJ, Fournier, Mitch, and Randall. On the season, they have a negative 16 net rating, the second worst among lineups that have played 100 minutes or more. The only starting five that is worse is the Houston Rockets one, and they're historically bad. Rose, Quickly, Burks, Toppin, and Gibson have a plus 28 net rating, by far the best bench in the NBA. And everybody in the starting lineup is in the negative in terms of points allowed per possession. Kemba Walker is averaging 12 points per game, and even that is misleading because he's been so up and down. You know, these are just his points in the last couple of games. 4 points, 5 points, 8 points, 2 points, 26, 15. Like, this guy, there's no consistency with Kemba. He doesn't have that same burst that he once had. I think he is more on the wash side than on the all-star side. Defensively, we know he's a liability. Fournier, ever since the opening night versus the Boston Celtics, where he had a career high in points, he's been Houdini. He's been a disappearing act. Fournier's averaging 12 points per game, shooting 40% from the field and 35% from the three. And he really hasn't done anything since opening night. He's been a huge disappointment for me.
Sorry.
Look at him. Look at him. He's so sad.
I'm sorry.
I will say this. Reggie Bullock is actually negative for the Mavericks. So Reggie Bullock hasn't been playing.
Nah, that was just a jab.
It was.
Julius Randle, he looks like someone. He looks like the 2019 version of himself and the 2020 version. Yeah. He looks like the 2019 and 2020 version of himself combined. You know, the All-NBA versus the complete scrub. Right now, he's somewhere in the middle. And before the season, I thought Randall's points were going to go down. He's shooting 41% from the field, 35% from three. That efficiency has gone down too. And RJ Barrett shooting averaging 15 a game, 6 rebounds, shooting 40% from the field and 32% from three. Before I get into the starters and completely bash them, because I'm going to do it, we need to have a lineup change. Emmanuel Quickly needs to start. That's one. He needs to start
Fournier.
Over Kemba.
Oh, okay.
He needs to start over Kemba and be our point guard. At this point, he's just better than Kemba.
But why
it's
not start
obvious.
Derrick Rose? I understand.
No, you want to keep that consistency.
No, he's better
bench.
on the bench. He's better on the bench.
But
Yeah, he's better on the bench. And frankly, I'm out on Kemba. Look, I think the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, they should give him 10 to 15 more games. Mm-hmm. If things don't improve, you trade him if you even can, or you cut him. Yeah. Because at this point, I don't even want to see Kemba on the team because he brings no defense. I want Quickly to start, and I want us to call up Deuce McBride and have Deuce McBride come off the bench, because if one thing's for certain, Deuce McBride is going to play elite defense. I mean, in college versus Cade Cunningham, he was amazing on him defensively. So I want the bench to be Deuce McBride, D. Rose, Burks, Obi, and Gibson or Noel. And I don't want Kemba on the roster. If he keeps playing like this in 15 more games, look, 30 games in, we've seen what you can do. That's almost halfway through the season. You're just not a fit for our culture. And I hate to say that because this is his homecoming, but it's not Kanye West's homecoming, that's for sure.
Not at all.
You know, it's not that. That's for sure. And here's another thing. But you know, I know everybody's bashing Fournier and Randall, but to me, I think Fournier, he's been disappointing, but he's been what we thought he would be. And the fact that he's been a little bit worse, but we know he's a floor space. We know he's not a good defender. And it just sucks that before the season, Knicks fans, we're a passionate bunch, and we like to overreact to things. So we thought Kemba and Fournier was a better offseason than Lonzo and DeMar. I just look at DeMar and be like, and I just think, what if he was on the Knicks, man? Like, DeMar would have just been so amazing for us.
This is interesting.
But Fournier,
This is interesting.
Fournier, he's getting paid a lot. We know he's not that great. It's whatever. Julius Randle's been disappointing, but I don't want to just talk about Julius Randle. I want to talk about RJ right now. Before the season, I said it. I don't think RJ is going to have a breakout season in the sense that I thought he was going to have. And he had a stretch where he was playing really well, and Drew came on the show, and he was like, man, that RJ breakout thing, it looks like, you should have stayed true to that. And in my head, I was just like, I was hesitant because I was like, okay, let's see if he keeps on doing this.
Yeah.
I think Knicks fans are hoping that RJ Barrett can become something that he's not. And I don't think he's a star player. I don't think he's a superstar player. Oof. I don't think he can be the second, third best player on a championship team. And in the offseason, when that dude from the Athletics, Seth Partnoy, made his list of players better than RJ, some of them I still disagree with, but the one that stood out was Caruso. You look at what Caruso's doing on Chicago. You look at the role that he's playing. He is better than RJ Barrett. Caruso is better than RJ Barrett. The numbers don't show it. The box numbers don't show it.
But you watched him play.
Alex Caruso can go on any team and find his role. RJ Barrett, would the Bulls right now trade Caruso for RJ Barrett? I don't think they would, because Caruso gives them elite defense. He pushes the pace in transition on the offensive side of the ball, and he can space the floor and is consistent. RJ Barrett just doesn't have a solidified role in the NBA, and he's a weird fit. And that's also my gripe with Julius Randle, because Julius Randle, the reason why this lineup is not working is because Randle last year was a heavy ISO player. Now when you have Fournier and Kemba, and that's taken away from Randle, we see that he doesn't look that good because Randle can't fit with other players. That's why, to me, I never thought Randle can be the first, second, even third best player on a championship team, because his game style, the way he plays, it just can't fit with other players. He's a very ISO-centric player. But back to RJ Barrett. I just don't know what his role is, right? Like, he's not a creator. He's not a playmaker. He's not a good ISO scorer. He's not good in the pick and roll. He can't really handle the ball. And all he can really do is slash and score in transition. Yeah. If he's not scoring in transition, you're going to see an 8-point game from RJ. The only reason why he has those big games, like we saw on the opening night versus the Celtics, his points in the second half were mostly in transition. If he's not scoring in transition, he's really not even on offense out there. Defenders are still leaving him wide open. Even though RJ hit 40% of his threes last year, defenders are still like, we still don't care. We still don't trust your shot. Yeah. And so far, he hasn't been living up to his 40% billing from last season. And I know last season he started off slow as well, but it's something to be concerned about. When we look at players in the NBA that have a solidified role, when you talk about guards, scoring guards, combo guards, pure point guards, lockdown defenders. You have the Cole Anthony types, the LaMelos who can do everything, the Chris Paul types. Then you have the Pat Bev types, the Caruso types. When you look at wing players, point forwards, like a Joe Ingles, Josh Giddey type of player, LeBron point forward. We know because he's an all-around player, though. 3-and-D, Vassell, Mikal Bridges, those type of guys. What is RJ? He's not a 3-and-D player. He's not a bucket getter. He's not a bona fide bucket. You can't give RJ the ball and say create something. You can't. He doesn't have a solidified role in the NBA, and it's because he has a weird skill set. And that's why I'm worried about RJ, and Knicks fans are hoping that he can become this star player, but I don't think that's in the cards for him. My career comparison for RJ is Harrison Barnes, and that's a nice career. Harrison Barnes is a nice player. But RJ, Harrison Barnes, the third overall pick, if Knicks fans hear me say that I think his career comp
they're going to hear you.
It's Harrison Barnes, they're going to be like, you're crazy, you're ridiculous. Have you seen RJ? He's only 21. but it's true. And the difference with Harrison Barnes is that he actually has a solidified role on a team. You know, he with the Warriors,
3-and-D.
best regular season team of all time with Harrison Barnes. He had a role on that team. RJ is still struggling to find his role. I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's his skill set, but that's just how I feel about RJ Barrett right now. I see his career being anywhere from a 14 to 19 point per game scorer. If maybe a couple times in his career he goes to a horrible team like Dallas when Harrison Barnes went there, he can average 20, but he is what he is. And I don't think he's a star player. I don't think he can be one of the best players on the championship team. He has a weird skill set. And the Knicks kind of shot themselves in the foot by winning a lot last year, because in this draft, we could have gotten a Scotty Barnes, a Cade Cunningham, and Evan Mobley and changed our franchise around. And I feel like us being competitive last year really messed us up because we didn't get another bona fide star. When you look at the players on the Knicks, Julius Randle, what team wants Julius Randle? No team wants Julius Randle. Teams that are looking to add one more player to get over the hump don't want him. A prime example, the Boston Celtics. We know they're like one or two players away. That one or two players isn't Julius Randle. They don't. I don't even think they would think about trading for Julius Randle at all. RJ Barrett, who really, what's his trade value? Kemba has no trade value. Fournier has no trade value. Mitch has some trade value. Quickly has trade value, but we wouldn't trade Quickly. Obi, who really has trade value on the Knicks that we can trade for a star player? I can't really think of one.
It'd be a lot of pieces to get a star.
So
player.
for us to really get over the hump, we need to draft well, and we have been drafting well. But we also needed to draft one of those top players in the draft. And last year, we frankly missed out on it because we were competitive. And I'd rather want that fourth seed, but I was hoping RJ would be better. And Knicks fans, they love RJ, so they're not holding him accountable. But he's in year 3. I don't care about the contract Fournier and Randle are getting. At some point, you have to expect a lot from a player that's playing 30-plus minutes per game. Yep. That was a 3rd overall pick that you expected to be a star. We look at Zion. He's a superstar. We look at Ja. He's a superstar. We look at RJ. What is he? We look at the 4th overall pick, Darius Garland. He's going to be a star. And people always say this is a wing league. Yeah, only if you have a superstar wing, because a point guard is more important to a team than a good wing player. I'd rather have a De'Aaron Fox. I'd rather have a Darius Garland than an RJ Barrett or a Harrison Barnes. I'd rather have that. And we worked out Darius Garland late. Before that draft, there were rumors of us taking him, but we ultimately didn't take him. But
it wasn't a bad pick. It
wasn't a bad pick, but Darius Garland, he looks like he's going to be a star.
You're right.
And run that point guard position. I just don't know what RJ's role is.
Because you have to think at the time, let's say you guys do take Darius Garland. Knicks fans are going crazy. They're not going to be happy with that. Obviously, RJ Barrett was the number 1 prospect coming out of high school, going into college over Zion Williamson.
Bing.
Yeah.
But we've seen before that doesn't even matter. If you look at the past 10 years, players that have been the best player in their high school class.
I'm just talking in terms of like fans and just people that just
Isaiah Stewart was a top 3 player in his high school class.
That's crazy.
Well, it's also the school you go to. He went to IMG, so that plays and RJ went to Montverde.
Yeah,
we're facing the Rockets, I think, today, and after we play them, we're playing the Bulls, the Lakers, the Suns, the Hawks.
Oh, it gets hard for you guys.
It's getting tough.
We're still in that stretch.
We have to.
Y'all have been doing.
We have to get out these wins. I don't know if you guys want to give your take on the Knicks, because I feel like I kind of
you did. I
kind of said everything, but if you guys have any pushback over what I said, you guys can say it right now.
The only pushback I have, because for the most part, you said everything. I didn't need to say much. I'm just laughing at this point. Your bench is really good, though. That's the one bright spot. Well, one thing I can say, though, with RJ Barrett, I feel like you're being a little too hard. I feel like you are being just a little bit too hard. And the reason why, I'm going to use a few examples. Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Wings take time. Wings take a little bit of time in the league because they're the guy that essentially is the do-it-all guy for you. They're the guy who defends, who can hit the 3-ball, who can go get a bucket, who has the playmaking in him, who rebounds. So they're the guys that have to understand every position because they're the guy that essentially does it all for you. I think right now, in this position, I think it's too early to say RJ can't be a star, but I can definitely see why you say, his game is very, very very stiff and weird. Like it's just a weird. And it's I don't know how to explain his game, but it's weird. He does only get his buckets in transition. His defense has lapsed a little bit this year. It's taken a step back. But I think it's still a little bit too early because he's only 21 years old. And guys, wings essentially take a long time to develop.